to all my third grade friends in the Mound West Tonka School District. It is I, Mr. Brett, and this is week 3 in our 4-week dive into the world of the vertebrates. Week 1 was the birds, and listening to them communicate as they are now coming back from migration and setting up nesting territory and all of that. Last week, we were looking for mammal signs in our yard. This week, we're focusing on the amphibians. Now, they too are calling. However, their winter was entirely different than some of the birds. As an amphibian, you are an ectotherm, meaning you do not make your own body heat like we, the warm-blooded, the endotherms. So you've spent all winter brumating, which is like hibernation, however, different. I always love, one of my favorite things about the spring, and let's be clear, I'm a huge fan of winter. However, spring is amazing because everything's always changing, is when the frogs start calling. As an ectotherm, if you don't find a place to stay above freezing throughout the winter, you don't make it, unless you're one of the animals we're going to be listening to in just a moment. I'm going to play 3 songs that you will hear now throughout the next few weeks with regards to the frogs and even a toad. And I want you to listen. I'm going to show you a picture, and then I encourage you to go out to find a wetland near you to listen to see if any of these are calling. The first one happens to be the first frog we tend to hear every spring, and it sounds a little something like this. You may recognize that. People have described it as people like taking the thumb down a comb along the teeth and making that sound. That belongs to the chorus frog. This thing is the size of your thumbnail. It is a teeny, the tiniest of frogs we have in Minnesota. It is loud when it gets going. It is the first frog we hear calling. Now, another frog that we often hear early in the year, and this is the one that allows its body to become partially frozen. As it heads into brumation, its body makes something called glycogen, which is a type of sugar, which then allows it to become partially frozen like a frog popsicle. Its teeny tiny heart stops beating, and somehow, some way, over several months of that being the case, it doesn't die. Now, I want you to think about what animal this reminds you of when I play the song, because it reminds me of one. Let's hear it. I kind of think that sounds like ducks quacking. That, my friends, is a wood frog, and it is the farthest north living amphibian in North America. Now, last one I want to play for you is one of the toads, and the toads will start calling, not quite yet, but soon enough. Usually as we get towards, mid-May, we start to hear the toads singing. Now, when they lay eggs, it takes about 6 weeks for that egg to go from being an egg to a tadpole to a teeny tiny toadlet on the ground. And when that happens, when those little toadlets complete the metamorphosis and come out and hit the shores, it is the toadeo, my friends. Those little things are everywhere. This is what they'll sound like, the adults, when they're singing here in the next few weeks. So wild. All these frogs and toads sound different. I don't know one of them that actually says ribbit like we always used to learn when we were younger. This, of course, is what the American toad looks like. What I want to do now is head outside to a wetland in my neighborhood to see if we can hear any of them calling. So here is a wetland that is not far from my house, some more standing water there. But as I come over this way, you get into a much more dense area just beyond the shrubs, full of cattails. And if you listen closely, I hear them in the distance. Crank up your volume. They're chorus frogs singing. It's been a cold week, not the best week for looking for frogs and toads. Later this weekend and next week, it's going to be perfect. So find that pond in your neighborhood and go have a listen. All right, well, thanks for sitting with me this week, learning, exploring. Hopefully you got out in the neighborhood and heard some frogs calling. Until we see each other again next time, get outside.